Thank you for being here. If you didn't hear Jason and Chris, who just introduced me earlier on, you need to watch that. And if you weren't here for Tim Rush, you need to hear that as well. Okay? So listen to them, okay? Because they were very, very helpful. I can't remember the words that Jason used exactly about what I was going to say or how I was going to say it. Do you remember that, Jason? Do we need to play back the video? Peculiar.
What you're going to say, it's going to be peculiar.
Okay. I don't think those were the words he said. If we can play back the video to... there's no video to play back. Glad you're here. Glad you're here too. Thanks, Jeff, for being here. I'm going to be in 1 Kings 18. It's a story that you're very familiar with. We'll get there in a moment. And it's the battle over whose God is real. So what we're doing here in this particular room is focusing on the kind of younger generation and communicating. And the three other brothers did an absolutely marvelous job in how they communicated. I'm going to try and communicate my message the way I communicate my message, and maybe that's what Jason was trying to say in some way. So get your eyes on the text. We'll get there in a little moment. 1 Kings 18, verse 20. So here's what I want to tell you. As I speak at this very moment, I'm on a place on the mountaintop like Elijah. All right? That's where I'm at. But sometimes I can speak from a place where I believe Israel is at this particular moment in the text. Is God the Lord or is Baal the Lord? Can you relate to that? And I don't care what age you are, if you're a Christian, I think you could relate to that in your context, right? Sometimes I speak from a place of daily defeat. I don't care how old you are or how young you are. If you're a Christian, you know what I'm talking about, yes? Yeah? Sometimes I speak from a place that it looks like I can't seem to make up my mind because of how I'm living my life. Is the Lord my God and all that would mean? He's my Lord and I have to live for Him. Or is Baal, the false gods and the things that I run after, is that more important to me? I don't care how old you are, and I know we're focusing on the younger generation, and there's some older people here too. So, do you ever pray? I know you do. Let me finish the thought before you... Do you ever pray for victory over something and it doesn't come? Yes. And you pray again and it doesn't come, and you pray again and it still doesn't come, right? You've been there before, so I'm in a good place. Or you pray over a struggle, or you're praying for something and you're praying over and over and over again, and it doesn't show up. I'll say this too. I'm speaking from the place of the prophet. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, okay? But at this moment, and for the last season of my life, I'm speaking from the place of the prophet. Not saying I'm a prophet. I'm speaking of a place of daily victory. Okay? But sometimes I speak, when I communicate, out of a place where I'm frustrated. And frustrated with myself. Even though I believe everything the Bible's saying about who I am, sometimes emotionally I can't get to there. Does that make sense? I don't care how old you are, how young you are. I think we can apply these truths, yes? Yes. But today, I'm also speaking from a place of confidence. But maybe you're not in a good place. So I think I could share something here in this story that would encourage you, that would help you, that would give you confidence. And I also believe, because I'm talking about, I saw the Lord who gives me victory. I think that's what I'm supposed to speak about. That we can have victory. Is that something you believe? Yes. Yeah, you believe you can have victory. Well, we do. in Jesus Christ, don't we? We have victory in Jesus Christ. But emotionally, sometimes we think, I'm not victorious. But we'll get into the text in a second. You're going to be in 1 Kings 18, verse 20. Is that where you're at? I'll get there in a moment. So Elijah, he's a prophet, as you know, and he's a prophet for God, and he's speaking during a time as a prophet where a man called Ahab became king of Israel. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I know you know this already, but Jeff said earlier on we have to give background, right? And if he said it, I got to do it too, right? So Ahab was a wicked king, as you know, and he started worshiping the Baal, and he encouraged the people of God to worship the Baal. And the Baal, as you know, is the sun god, the Canaanite sun god, and is the storm god. He's usually depicted with a lightning bolt in his hand. He's the guy that sends the rain. He's the fella that they worshipped and as a fertility god so they could have children and all that. You know that already. But because of Ahab's wickedness and the worship of the false gods and whatnot, Elijah the prophet goes, you know this story. The Elijah prophet goes and says, because of what you're doing and how you're leading the people astray, it's not going to rain for a wee while. Right? You know the story. It's not going to rain for quite a while, 3.5 years. And it didn't rain for 3.5 years. And then Elijah comes back on the scene, and Ahab sees him, and he says, is that you troubler of Israel? And he said, I didn't bring the trouble. You did. And maybe Ahab thought, well, I don't particularly care that it's not going to rain for 3.5 years because I believe in Baal, and I believe in this guy, and he's the one that brings the rain. So you can say what you want, but we know it didn't rain for 3.5 years. And he wants to blame Elijah. I want to throw something your way for you to consider. Is it because of the choices that you have made that you're dealing with what you've got on your lap right now? Just consider it. Let it simmer. Okay? Are you dealing with the things that you're dealing with right now because of choices that you have made and decisions you've made? So, he says to him, we're going to meet on Mount Carmel. We're going to settle this once for all. Let's get into the text. 1 Kings 18, verse 20. I'm going to need another one of these. Someone throw me one. Well, not really. You would want to. There was 5 people. They're ready to throw bottles at me. They were all... I've got some, but I know I'm going to need another one. Corey, thanks. Thanks, my man. You didn't poison it with anything, did you, on the way down? 1 Kings 18, verse 20. Can't trust the director of the AIM program. Who can you trust, right? 1 Kings 18:20. I believe I'm reading the NIV. So Ahab sent word throughout all Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and said, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. But the people said nothing. Isn't that kind of sad? You've got the people of God that are representing the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom. And he said, who are you going to follow? And the people of God didn't say anything. Isn't that sad? Would there be any kind of application for the church today? I'll just let you whatever else I was supposed to say there. Verse 36. At the time of the sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed. We'll skip all the making fun of them and whatnot, okay? Or do you want me to read that and we can laugh at them? Right. Some people are like, I wish because it would give me an opportunity to mock some people. But we'll skip all that. Verse 36. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, that I'm your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, O Lord, are God, and that you're turning their hearts back again. Watch this. You got your eyes on the text? You're looking at me. Get your eyes on the text. You're turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, the soil, also licked up the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, "The Lord, He is God. The Lord, He is God." Now here's a question for you, okay? Do you want victory in your life? Yeah. Do you? Do you? God bless you. Do you want victory in your life? Do you want victory over the Baals, the false gods, the things that lead us astray from God? Do you want to realize the source of any victory that you have? Do you want to stand up for God today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year?
Yes. Yes.
Just making sure you're still there. The accent may need to, you've caught up with it. Here's what you need to do. Get your eyes back on the text. Verses 36 and 37. 36 and 37. We need to acknowledge there is a God. We are His servants. Everything was done at His command. And fourth, someone is going to know there's a God. Are you with me? There is a God. We are His servants. Everything we do is at His command, and someone around us is going to know there's a God. Then, and only then, did the fire fall. What? Okay. So what? Fire won't fall. And I'm not saying when you acknowledge all things, the big lightning bolt's going to come down. I'm not saying that like a real one. But the power of God, if we want to be victorious, we are victorious in Jesus Christ. You heard me say that earlier on, right? That's a done deal. We're winners. We're victorious. But it's this emotional and daily defeat and struggles that we have that we think we're losers. No, we're not. We're winners. We're victorious. So here's the thing. And then I'm going to make some application to us. Elijah put it all on the line for God, didn't he? Well, he's a prophet of God. Of course he's going to do that. Elijah put it all on the line for God. Let me ask you this. If you're a Christian, doesn't matter what age you are, if you're a Christian, a young one or an older one, and I'm not talking about you were baptized yesterday, I'm talking about if you're 15 years old or 10 years old and you said yes to Jesus as Lord, I'm speaking to you as well as someone who's really a lot older. Here's what I want you to think about. Have you ever put it all on the line for God? And I'm not just talking about going to church every Sunday and Wednesday night and Sunday night. Have you ever put it all on the line for God? Have you put all your eggs in the God basket? Have you ever done that? You and God work that out, have a conversation. Okay, I'm just putting it out there for you. You see, Elijah would have looked very foolish, like the prophets of Baal did, right? He would have looked very foolish because the 400 and there was another 450, they could all hide behind each other. Not Elijah. He would have looked very foolish in front of a lot of people, because this was a public gathering. This was someone's God is going to answer today, and we're not leaving until someone's God answers. There was no escape route for Elijah. Someone's God's going to answer today, and we're not leaving. So, have you put it all on the line for God? Or, I better keep one foot over here in the world and my finances and my health and everything else that we feel secure in, but then I'll put the other one over here, right? Am I the only one that does that? You going to leave me hanging dry by myself? Come on, right? Right, let's be real. If we're going to be real anywhere, it's in this little gathering, right? We ever put it all on the line for God? Am I being too real? No? Okay. You be the checkers at the back, okay? Do that okay? It's just like, no. People diving out the windows and stuff like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I said something wrong then. It's like, people, well, I was going too far with that. Anyway, so, why doesn't the fire fall for us? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Why doesn't that happen to us? Why doesn't the fire fall? Why doesn't God reveal himself to us? Why don't we experience the power that Elijah experienced? I'm going to suggest to you that maybe we don't always put our toe on the line. That we don't always put all our eggs in the God basket. Maybe. You and God need to discuss that. You see, victories don't always happen in my life, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't always acknowledge there is a God. I know there's a God, like you do. But I don't always acknowledge there's a God. And I don't even know if I'm sure what that actually looks like. It may be just between me and God and my motivation for why I live the way I live. Maybe. But I don't always acknowledge there's a God to those who stand opposed to God. Maybe that's why the fire doesn't fall. I know there's a God. I know there's a God. I don't always say I'm his servant. I think I would look a bit nutty if I just went around saying to everybody, hey, you know I'm God's servant. You know I'm God's... I'm not saying we need to do that either. There must be some acknowledgement of God and some acknowledgement of the way I live my life, that I'm not going to just say, by the way, I'm his servant. But I live in such a way that I'm his servant and people know. So, which means I'm not going to be selfish the way I can be selfish. I'm going to think more of you than myself. I don't always do what he commands. There's reasons why I'm not victorious all the time. But there's days that I do. Some days are better than others, right? You'd agree with that too. And I hardly ever mention, I live the way I live, so someone's going to know there's a God. I don't do something nice from a friend Mark over here and say, well, Mark, I'm doing this because I want the people to know there's a God. But there needs to be some acknowledgement that there is a God. And at some point, I might break out in song. Don't let me sing on my own. Okay? Jason, I'm counting on you, and Chris and Wilson and not Corey. But Corey, you can sing too. I can say that because he's my buddy. Where was I? Oh, yeah. There must be a reason why we live the way we live. Right? We live the way we live different from the world because of who we belong to. Isn't that right? I love my neighbor as myself, not because I'm a nice person, because I love God. So there must be a reason why we live the way we live. There must be an acknowledgement of God in our lives. There must be a reason why we do what we do. And it's not so people will think of us, they're really nice. Right? Though some of us can be motivated like that. I want them to think I'm a nice person, so I'll buy them a lunch or something. Make sure it's at a really nice restaurant if you're taking me. And I'll let you have the blessing. Come on. Amen. Amen. Where are we going to eat tonight? Who's taking us? Curtis needs to come with me, and so is Roger. So you're bringing 3 people wherever we're going, somewhere nice. I know you do what you do because you love God. I don't doubt that at all. You love God. I know you love God. And so I want to ask the question, and this is all connected to the story, of course. Do you want fire to fall in your life? And you might think to yourself, I don't know if I do or not. That's kind of pretty scary, isn't it? You pray, I pray to God, and He answers the prayer, and the lightning comes down and consumes everything. I don't know if I want that kind of relationship with God. I just want Him to fix the issues that I can't fix myself, or manage life for me when I can't manage it myself. But listen, it wasn't just because Elijah prayed that the fire fell. It was God acknowledging Elijah's life. Not just the prayer. He was God's servant. He did everything that God commanded him to do. He knew there was a God. And he knew these prophets of Baal and the other ones, there is a God. But God acknowledged Elijah, not just the prayer, his life. And Chris and Jason spoke this way earlier on to us about our lives and how we live our lives. And we're not sick people, though we can be at times. And we want to be healthy people and spiritually healthy people. And how will that come to us? Does Elijah have anything here to say to us? So after all the jumping up and down and looking like Egypts, Baal never showed up. The God they called the rider of the clouds, the one who sends the rain, the one with the lightning bolt in his hand, he fizzled out, didn't he? And that's the thing. That's the problem with gods that aren't really gods. You can't rely on them. That's right. But sometimes we do, don't we? Well, it just so happened at that time that thing happened, so I'll give credit to that other God. But he fizzled out, didn't he? And if you can't trust your God, who can you trust? Right? Do I need to tell? I don't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Do I need to tell you that you can trust God? Yahweh, the Father of Jesus Christ. Do you need me to tell you you can trust Him? No. Why not? Because you already know. You already know that you can trust Him. For there's no other God like Him. O Lord God of Israel, there's no God like you. In heaven would be low. O God, God of Israel, there's no God like you. In heaven above. What does He do? You keep your covenant of love. Your covenant of love. For there is no God like you. In heaven above. Amen. Thank you for doing that. So Elijah simply confessed God as God and asked for Him to reveal Himself so that the people will know that He's God. And God did it. God answered the prayer of Elijah, invoking a confession of faith from the people, where they finally said, the Lord, who is He? He's God. Not Baal. The Lord, He's God. This story here that you're very familiar with, it's not a story about Elijah. It's not. It's not a story about miracles either. It's about God. Amen. This story is about God. Amen. That God is a powerful God. That He wants to send fire down into your life. God wants to live through you. That so people will know there is a God. I'm going to sing again. Here we go. There is a God. He is alive. In Him we live and we survive. From the start, God created man. He is our God, the great I am. God bless you. Are there Mount Carmels in your life? You need to apply this to you. If you're a 10-year-old Christian or you're a 100-year-old Christian, are there Mount Carmels in your life? Only you can answer this. See, living before the non-Christian world and even the Christian world is a Mount Carmel experience. Doing the right thing as temptation and sin are before you is a Mount Carmel experience. Am I going too far in the application there, do you think?
Preach it.
Going to work, depending where you work, going to work can be a Mount Carmel experience. Going to school, I wouldn't want to be younger today and having to go to school as a Christian. I wouldn't want to do it. Going to work, living in and around non-Christians, and even times Christians, going to school. You got people who are worshipping false gods. And how are we supposed to live in that? That can be a Mount Carmel experience, can't it? So, how are you going to prove there's a God? Jason and Chris talked about this earlier. How will people know there's a God in your life? How will people know there's a God in your life who has power to change the direction of your life? How will people know there's power in the gospel? How will people know that there is a God, that He is alive, and in Him we live and we survive? How will people know that? Here's the answer. By your transformed life. Amen. By your transformed life. They can read the Bible. They may even believe something. I'm talking about the non-Christian world. They may even read the Bible. They may even believe some things in it. But how will they know there's a God? By your transformed life. By your spiritual health. By you acknowledging some things. However we acknowledge there's a God. I don't know how we acknowledge all the ways that there's a God. But if you do it around them, they're going to know there's a God. And you're not going to go up to them and say, hey, non-Christian, I want you to know that I'm God's servant. We don't do that. What do? We just serve them. Amen. We just serve them. And we don't say, by the way, I'm doing all these things because that's what God wants me to do. We don't do that either. We just get on with it. don't we? And we live our lives the way we live our lives because we love God and we love them. And someone, and it might even be us, someone is going to know there's a God. And it might even be us that we might need to be reminded. I'm doing this because I love God. And now I see what He does. And I know there's a God. There is a God. We are His servants. Everything we do as it is His command. And someone around us will know, even if they don't acknowledge it, that we want them to. They're going to say, why are you living that way? Why are you treating me that way? Why are you blessing me that way? Why did you forgive me when I did this against you? And we won't have to say, I'm doing this so you'll know there's a God. They'll know it. And maybe they'll respond the way they respond to Elijah. There is a God. The Lord is God. I'm nearly done, okay? Are these the days of Elijah? I'm not going to break out in song again, by the way. Though that's a nice song, isn't it? Maybe Jason Thornton will come up and lead it for us, or Chris. Are these the days of Elijah? I think so. I think so. I think these are the days where the church is standing up as best as they're standing up and saying to the world, however we say it, if it's through street ministries with Jason, if it's someone else doing something over here, people know there's a God, even if they say there's not. People proclaiming there's a God, we're His servants, everything is done as His word, and someone around us is going to know there's a God. So, you Christian, you're victorious in Jesus Christ. Yeah. Even though there's days that you're on the mountaintop and you're challenging everybody, but you're also victorious. Believe this. You're victorious when you're down in the dumps and you're doubting. Is He God? Is He not? You're victorious as well in that moment. I'm not trying to give an invitation here. I'm not, okay? I don't know about this invitation stuff that we do at the end of sermons. I think He wants more than that. But if you're defeated in life at this moment, if you're struggling to stand up against those who stand against God, or you're struggling to stand up against the false gods in your life, if you need power to fall from heaven on your life, what about surrendering your life to God? What about saying at this very moment, not in 2 minutes or 2 hours from now, but at this very moment, saying, I'm going to put it all on the line for God. Before you walk out the door, that you just say, God, this day is the only one of God. I'm putting it all on the line for you. What about doing that? What about saying, I'm putting it all on you. I'm putting all my eggs today in your basket, God. And I'm going to tell someone there is a God. And I'm going to live in such a way that they're going to say, that person's nuts. They must be a Christian. By how they're living their life. And that someone in your life, and it might even be you, by the end of this day, is going to acknowledge there's a God. What if you did that? What do you think God would do in response? So if you do, and this is not supposed to be an invitation, if you do feel defeated, if you do have doubts, if you're struggling, you see all those guys in the back there? Look, you'd have to turn around to look at them. See all those guys on the back there? Jay, you too. Go and speak to some of those guys. And speak to some of the girls. See the girl in the yellow, orange hat? Speak to her too. Speak to this man right here. Speak to these two right here. Speak to that man right there, Mike Hammonds. Speak to Roger. Speak to Mike Acton, right? You speak to these people. They'll fire you, and Brother Jeff too. And Jordy. I could name all the people I know your names. I'll point to you. Mark too, and Peter, Dan at the back, and Dan's mum, and Wes too. Speak to these, and look, young Luke there. Speak to him. He'll fire you up in your walk with God if you're feeling discouraged and defeated. There's plenty of people in this room that will fire you up before you walk out that door. God bless you. God bless you in your believing and in your daily acknowledgement of your God.